My dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this opportunity again that He has provided for us so that we can talk about some very important topics of our lives. Especially in these days that we are all going through some difficult testing times and difficult issues, and most of us are in lockdowns and with all social distancing and others. There are all kinds of questions that pop out in our minds, and people are rediscovering their faith in these days, and people are realizing what life is all about. And alhamdulillah, those of us who have understood it, it is also time for all of us, for each one of us, to dig deeper into our faith, to ask more questions, and inshallah to become a stronger believer as a result of this crisis, and to have better understanding of our deen for ourselves and for others. Okay, so now the next question is that if life is all about tests and trials, are there any rewards or punishments in this life? What is the answer? The answer is that yes, there are some rewards and punishments in this life. But we have to understand two things about the rewards and punishments of this life. Number one, the rewards and punishments of this life is nothing compared to the rewards and punishment of next life. Why? Because next life is meant to be the life of rewards and punishments, and this life is meant to be life of tests. So there is some reward and punishment, but that is insignificant compared to the rewards and punishments of next life. Number one. Number two, that's what is given to us as reward and punishment. The important thing is our reactions and our behavior towards the rewards and punishments. Yes. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punishes us, and if we show the wrong behavior, we do not turn to Allah, we do not humble ourselves, we do not do the right things, then that punishment really becomes a true punishment, and more punishment will come. And in the next world, our punishment will increase because Allah gave us all those opportunities, but we did not turn to Allah. And also rewards. If Allah gives us rewards and we are not thankful to Allah, we are not showing gratitude to Allah, we do not become more humble, then even rewards become a burden for us. So you see that even rewards and punishments of this life can be a test actually, depending on how people behave. The only time that the punishments of this life become real punishment is that when people die. Yes, those people who die as a result of tests and trials, and those people who that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them death, basically when their time is expired, now this is a real punishment for them. Why? Because they have no more chance to ask for forgiveness. All of a sudden their opportunities are expired. And that could happen anytime. So when Allah gives punishments, if people die, that is the real punishment because that's it. And those other people who receive the punishment and they are alive, but they still don't turn to Allah, then that's adhab for them. Okay. Otherwise, they have the opportunity to return to Allah and actually benefit from it. And imagine if a person is disbeliever and Allah punishes them with some kind of hardships, but if they turn to Allah, or they are weak believers, or they are sinners, even though they are believers, they are sinners, then when the hardship comes, if they turn to Allah, actually that punishment becomes a rahmah. That punishment becomes an act of mercy, because as a result of this punishment, they turn to Allah. So now we should understand that the nature of punishments of this life is nothing more than a pinching people to wake up, to come to their senses. So as long as we understand this, then we understand the nature of rewards and punishments. And rewards in this life for believers, those who are in the path of Allah, is usually in the following forms. One, believers will have peace and tranquility and inner happiness in this life. Yes. When they work hard in the path of Allah, even though they may be facing a lot of hardships, a lot of issues, but internally they have this peace and the happiness. And if they have peace and happiness inside, that's the best thing that one can have. Imagine, that by billions of dollars you cannot buy that peace and inner happiness that Allah gives you for free when you are in His path. So even though you have a lot of issues, but you have peace inside and happiness. Yes, this is one thing that Allah gives to believers in this life. This is a reward. Another form of reward in this life is that Allah gives us life of purity. Allah says that من عمل صالحا من ذكر أو أنثى وهو مؤمن فلنحيينه حياة طيبة. That whoever does good deeds, whether it's a male or female, as long as they are believers, Allah says that we give them a life of purity, a life that really is pure from a lot of other wrong things, and hayatan tayyiba, and وَلَنَجْزِيَنَّهُمْ أَجْرَهُمْ بِأَحْسَنِ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. And Allah says we reward them with the best of their deeds. The deeds that they have done, they will reward every other deed based on that. Also, the reward of this world is that Allah facilitates and makes things easy for us. Allah says, فَأَمَّا مَنْ أَعْطَى وَاتَّقَى وَصَدَّقَ بِالْحُسْنَى فَسَنُيَسِّرُهُ لِلْيُسْرَى. That whoever gives in the path of Allah and shows taqwa and they confirm the truth, Allah will make things easy for them. Allah will facilitate for them the easy way. So this is another type of reward in this world that true believers receive. And also Allah explains the blessings that come to people from the heaven and the earth in this world as long as they are in the right path. Allah says, وَلَوْ أَنَّ أَهْلَ الْقُرَىٰ آمَنُوا وَاتَّقَوْا لَفَتَحْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ بَرَكَاتٍ مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ. If the people of a town, of a village, of a country, if they have two things, iman and taqwa, if they have true faith, and if they really are conscious of Allah and they are doing their best and they are dutiful towards Allah, Allah says that we will open the gates of heaven, of blessings coming from the heaven and from the earth for people, as long as they show the right attitude. So the rewards of this world, there is a reward in this world, but in these kind of forms. Also Allah explains in Surah Talaq many things. مَنْ كَانَ يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. Whoever believes in Allah and in the next life, and whoever shows taqwa, Allah will create an exit for any problem so that people come out of difficulties. Another place Allah talks about provisionings. وَيَرْزُقُهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. And Allah provides from directions that you have never imagined. This is also reward of this life. وَمَنْ يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. And whoever has tawakkul on Allah, rely on Allah, then Allah is enough for them. Another place, again Allah says, مَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مِنْ أَمْرِهِ يُسْرًا. Whoever has taqwa, Allah will make their affairs easy. So these are the kind of rewards of this life that Allah also gives courage and confidence for true believers. And Allah has a clear direction in life. Allah gives people a clear direction in life, and you with courage and confidence you move on. And this is also a great thing. A lot of people are not sure what they are doing, whether it's good for them or wrong for them. But you know as a true believer that as long as I'm in the path of Allah and as long as I'm making the right efforts, then the result is great. Whether I see the results now or not, with confidence and courage, you will move forward. Also, the dua of true believers will be accepted more and more if people are closer to Allah. So that's another reward, that dua will be accepted more. So we have to understand all of these different rewards in this world, that there are some rewards, but again in these kind of forms, and other than that they are all tests of life. And punishments of this life, those people who see punishment, Allah explains that the punishment is meant most of the time for them to return. So unless people die in that punishment, then the punishment is an opportunity for them to return. Allah explains this, for example, in Surah Sajda, وَلَنُذِيقَنَّهُم مِّنَ الْعَذَابِ الْأَدْنَى دُونَ الْعَذَابِ الْأَكْبَرِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ. We give them some hardship, some punishment in this life, just to get a taste of punishment in this life. For what purpose? So that they turn to Allah. لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ. Another place Allah says, لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَضَرَّعُونَ فَأَخَذْنَاهُمْ بِالْبَأْسَاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَضَرَّعُونَ. We created some hardships for them so that they humble themselves in front of Allah, so that they turn to Allah and show humility. See, so it's actually meant to be a good thing even for disbelievers and sinners and others, as long as they turn to Allah. So this is the nature of rewards and punishments in this life. Now, another topic that we move on, we have to reflect on the design of our body. The human body is designed to go through tests and trials. So that's why illnesses and sicknesses are part of life. And also this body must someday die. That's also part of the plan. Some people say that, well, if Allah is perfect, then why our creation is not perfect? Why Allah created us in such a way that we face all these difficulties and sicknesses and illnesses and losing members and other things? Well, because Allah designed our body to be tested. So Allah's design is perfect. Allah's design is perfect, but based on the objectives of life. When you work on a design, your design is perfect as long as the design meets the objectives. So the objective of life is to be tested. So Allah has made this body for us in a way that we should be continuously tested. So Allah has created some mechanisms inside our body to trigger illnesses and sicknesses. And these organs from time to time should become sick. And Allah has created the bacteria and the virus and other things to come and test us. So that's why our body is meant to be tested and is designed. And in the next world, inshallah, if we go to Jannah, our bodies will be perfect, that no sicknesses, no hardships, nothing. But in this world, our body is designed as such, okay? And this body is designed to expire someday. So death and sicknesses is not a problem with design, but it's objective of life. When we understand this, now we can understand many things, such as birth defects. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has planned that throughout history and in every generation and in every part of the world, some individuals, some children should be born with some defects. Some children with blindness, some children with deafness, some children with not having some mental abilities, they have disabilities mentally. Some children are born with some other hardships, some other kind of defects. So this is planned by Allah. Yes, we have some apparent causes, because of this or that, apparent reasons, but the real reason is that Allah wanted to give those kind of children. And in fact, if we really look at it, among every, say, 1,000 people or so, or 10,000 people, whatever, there should be one child born with some defects. This is plan of Allah. Throughout the history, in every part of the world, no matter how much science and medical technology advances, some children should be born with some defects. And this will never stop. Why? First of all, when we see children like that, then we understand the role of Allah. That children do not come by themselves. Someone is designing their body. Someone is designing what to give, what not to give to that child. So we are reminded about the role of Allah, the Creator. Second, we start to appreciate a healthy child when we see those other children with those defects. Otherwise, we will not even appreciate, and we will take it for granted that, I'm expecting that all of my children should be born healthy. No, Allah gives some children so that we be thankful for healthy children. And also Allah brings some children to this world with some defects so that the family is tested, especially the parents and the siblings are being tested a lot with a birth defect of a child in that family. And it becomes a major test for parents, and as long as the parents show the right attitude towards Allah and towards the children, those kind of children, then actually it becomes an opportunity for them that they get so much rewards. Yes, the parents who are having these kind of children, if they show the right attitude and they are still grateful to Allah, they are still trying their best to be kind and merciful to those kind of children, then they get mountains of rewards. So we can conclude that actually giving those kind of children is a favor of Allah. Allah chooses certain parents to give them those kind of children. Unfortunately, culturally, a lot of times people look at it as a taboo. Oh, these parents must have done something wrong that their children are born with all these difficulties. No, it's not parents' fault. It's Allah who decided to give those kind of children for these people. So it is a gift for parents. And also, now the question is that what about those children? Why those children are not enjoying their life and they are having all these difficulties? Well, two things. First, Allah gives them the ability to cope with the situation. So every child, whatever defects they have, Allah gives them the ability to cope with the situation. So they are not suffering as much as we think. They will accept. Allah gives them the ability to accept things. And also Allah will give them the ability to basically move on in their life. And Allah will give them other abilities in this life. For example, someone who is blind, Allah make them so smart in other ways that they can understand things and they can find their ways, and the means will be arranged for them. And also in the next life, Allah will give them a perfect body, and Allah will make their results and the judgment much easier with them. Yes. If they are blind, they will not be asked at all why you did not see or this or that, and all the sins that the eye does, they will be exempted. And if they have mental disabilities in this world, they will not be asked at all. Majnoon, they will not be asked at all. They will move on to Jannah directly. And we would all at that time, when we look at them, we may say that I wish I was like them. Yes, because they will move on to Jannah, inshallah, without any questioning if they had no mental abilities in this world. And so Allah will do His justice. Let's understand that birth defects are meant to be there, and it's actually a favor for society, for the parents. How about all the illnesses and sicknesses that we all get? They are meant to be tests. And first, they are meant to be a reminder for people that Allah sometimes make this body, sick. So we appreciate the value of health. We appreciate the role of Allah. And actually, this suffering can provide a better vision of our priorities. That what is life all about? When we become sick, then we start questioning a lot of things and we start thinking, because otherwise we're not thinking, we just keep going with routines of life. And then when we are sick, we are tested with our patience, how much patience we show, and how much we are using the resources that are available to us in terms of doctor, medicine, other things. That's also a test. Whether we show gratitude for other parts of our body that's working at the time when we are sick. One organ is not working, other parts are working. And also, do we have hope? That's also being tested. Some people say, oh no, this is a hopeless situation. They are losing the test. We should have hope. And every sickness is actually meant to be a means of reward and forgiveness of sins. The Prophet ﷺ says in a very beautiful hadith that, a true believer, even if a thorn hits their foot, if they walk and their thorn hits their foot, some of their sins will be forgiven. Subhanallah. Any pain that true believers in this world they see, it is actually meant to be a forgiveness of sins and a lot of rewards for them. And also, sickness is an opportunity to remind ourselves about death. Every time we get sick, we are reminded that maybe I'll die as a result of this sickness. So it's a good thing to remind us about the reality of life, that yes, I will die something, and I better think about it, and I better prepare myself for it. And in fact, if a person dies as a result of sickness, it's a great favor of Allah. You know, say someone is a grandma, grandpa, or mother, or father, or children is sick for 1 year, 2 years, and 3 years, and then they die. In these 2-3 years, they will start thinking more about life. They will start repenting to Allah. They will start turning to Allah more sincerely. And so their sins will be forgiven, and they will make a lot of dua and repentance. And also other family members who serve them during this sickness, they are getting so many rewards. And also they become ready mentally for their departure. And the person himself or herself becomes ready for their departure. See, when they die after 1 year, 2 years of all this sickness, it is actually a favor of Allah compared to a sudden death. All of a sudden, if some family member dies, it's so difficult for the whole family. But if they go through some sufferings and some sicknesses, then they all become ready for their departure mentally. So we can conclude that sickness as a result of death, death as a result of sickness is actually a favor of Allah to the person and to the family. And the Prophet ﷺ has explained this in many ways, that there are many hadiths that we don't have time to go through, that sickness is a favor of Allah. I will cover a couple more tests and then inshallah we will stop. The test of poverty. The test of poverty, poverty is basically lack of financial resources, and it is mostly, the poverty is mostly caused by human injustices. So because people are exploiting the resources, certain countries and governments, they are exploiting the resources of other countries or themselves, or some individuals, they are exploiting resources and they are taking rights of others. A lot of times poverty is caused as a result of human injustices. But sometimes, in spite of all kinds of efforts that people make to gain the wealth, but they cannot, because Allah is now testing them. And Allah says that إِنَّ رَبَّكَ يَبْسُطُ رِزْقَ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ وَيَقْدِرُ. Allah is the one who expands the provisionings or reduces the provisionings. It is Allah. إِنَّهُ كَانَ بِعِبَادِهِ خَبِيرًا بَصِيرًا. Because He is very knowledgeable about the situation of His servants, and He sees that. So based on His wisdom, ultimate wisdom, He reduces sometimes our wealth, and sometimes we may become poor. Or He chooses certain people to go through some poverty in certain situations or certain stages of their lives. For what reason? Again, to test people how they are reacting and behaving. So when we understand this, then we understand that if I'm wealthy, I'm being tested, and if I'm losing my wealth or my job and my income, it is a test. So I have to focus on my reaction and my behavior. And also one more reason that people lose wealth or become poor is because of laziness. Some people don't make any human efforts. They are sitting at home and they are not looking for a job, and then they say, I have all these difficulties. Well, because you decided yourself, you're not doing any human efforts. So we have to make the human efforts and then depend on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is about test of poverty. And then what about the test of oppression and wars? As we know, a lot of countries, a lot of Muslim countries, a lot of people are going through a lot of oppression and wars. So what is that all about? Well, while Islam is a religion of peace and it's meant to establish peace on the earth and in the lives of people, Islam does not accept oppression. And Islam wants Muslims to resist any kind of oppression. And Muslims must strive for their freedom, must strive for justice, and must resist the oppressors. And the Prophet ﷺ says, "Afdalul jihadi kalimatun adlin or kalimatun haqqin," another hadith, in the Sultan Jair, that the highest level of jihad is to say the word of truth in the face of a dictator, in the face of an oppressor. Yes. So stand up for your rights and stand against oppression and injustices. But using the legal methods. Using the legal methods, stand against injustices. Use peaceful methods and legal methods. And in different countries, there are different laws. And in a Muslim country, at some point, if you're oppressed and continue to oppress, then you have the right to even stand with armed struggle to defend yourself in certain situations. And that becomes legal from Islamic point of view, as long as the scholars all agree and a group of authorities announces that. But in the meantime, while you are struggling to get away from oppressors and wars, we have to remind ourselves that I'm being tested. So showing patience and perseverance is important, making dua is important, and reflecting on the wisdom of these sufferings and understanding that these sufferings are temporary and sooner or later will finish. And finally, any other kinds of sufferings that people see in this life, first we have to analyze and identify the cause of the sufferings. And if it's within our human efforts, we have to get away from it. And if sufferings are caused by injustices of other people, we have to stand for our rights. But if we have made our efforts and still we are suffering, we have to understand that Allah is testing us, and we have to understand that Allah will give us the ability to, inshallah, handle the test, and Allah will not ask us beyond that. La yukallifullahu nafsan illa wus'aha. Allah will not charge anyone beyond their capacity. When we understand this formula of mercy of Allah, that Allah only asks us what we are capable of. So whatever happens beyond our choices, beyond our capabilities, we don't have to worry about it. And we should have full confidence that Allah has a wisdom behind it, and inshallah it is meant to be good for me. Subhanallah. Understanding this formula brings a lot of peace, a lot of times because we are causing trouble for ourselves and for others because we expect things beyond our choices, beyond our control. So now to conclude, this life is all about tests and trials, and we have spoken about the nature of sufferings and the nature of this life. Inshallah, in the next session, we will talk about the nature of death and the natural disasters, and that will inshallah complete our session with Qada and Qadar. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from all of us, especially in these days, and help us to reflect on these things much more seriously and deeply, and help us to make some good decisions in these days, and help us to become much stronger believers and much better human beings as a result of this crisis and this testing time. May Allah help this test to become easy for Muslims all over the world, especially poor countries, that they are going through a lot of sufferings, a lot of hardships, financial hardships and other problems. May Allah make this test easy on the whole humanity and help humanity to reflect on the purpose of this test. May Allah accept our dua. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.